Welcome back. Episode 2 of the Golden Boot Podcast. It's your boy Pooh Bear. I got Ant Petty Murphy, Daniel D. Will, and we got Chris Honeybun in the back cooking up some fire on the ones and twos. How y'all feeling this week?
Man, I'm doing good. How about y'all?
Man, I'm good, bro. I'm doing good. Not as good as a Cleveland Brown fan right about now, though.
Ooh, I mean, they got about 230 million reasons to be happy. Let's jump into it. Deshaun Watson signs with the Cleveland Browns for $230 million guaranteed. Guaranteed $230 million. Houston, out of the deal, they get 3 first-round picks. That's a first-round pick in 2022, 2023, 2024. They get a third round in 2023 and a fourth round in 2024. What are y'all thoughts?
Honestly, I mean, it's as a Saints fan, it sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, for the Cleveland Browns, hey, good job. Good luck, Deshaun. Honestly, you're gonna be playing against our boy Joe Burrow, the great, and I mean, they giving away a lot. I hope it's worth it to them.
Yeah, I think as a Cleveland Brown fan, you gotta wonder, did you give up too much? You know what I mean? You got not only did you give up the 5 picks, you gave up 230 million fully guaranteed. That's 80 million more than Aaron Rodgers is getting right now. So I mean that's a lot of money, and not to mention the 3 first-round picks. This is only the second time in NFL history a player has got traded for 3 first-round picks. And the other one is the Herschel Walker trade, and we all know how big that was for setting up the Dallas Cowboys for they Super Bowl runs that they had in the '90s. So if you're a Texans fans right now, you might be looking back in a few years like we won this trade just because you had the potential to set up your franchise for the future with them 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, so not just that. You got to remember that Cleveland also they lost Jarvis Landry. They lost, if I'm not mistaken, Austin Hopper.
Hopper Hooper, same thing.
Yeah, Hopper Hooper. They got Amari Cooper, but which Amari Cooper are they getting? So they have now. I will say they probably have the best stable of running backs in the NFL with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and let's not forget D'Ernest Johnson. That man, he made himself a lot of money last year. So what's next? Because they did pick up Jacoby Brissett as well as a backup. They shipped Casey Keenum to Buffalo, and they still got Baker Mayfield, which he he requested a trade. They told him no, brought in 2 more quarterbacks, and now they're gonna do what they want to do.
Yeah. What's funny about Baker is we'll talk about that later. But what I will say is
New
Baker
stuff.
Baker is still considered a pretty good quarterback in the league, at least top 15. So I think you can trade him and still get some assets for him. In my opinion,
I know. Baker said that he was interested in the Colts. My question is, are the Colts interested in Baker? Right. The Colts are a team that's built to win now, and there are a couple pieces, one of them being a quarterback, away from competing for a championship. So do they roll the dice on Baker? Do they go after somebody who's a little more proven and experienced, and Jimmy G, who's actually been to the mountaintop? He hadn't won it, but he's actually been there. Like
All
so,
right.
I think there's a lot of questions for Baker in his future because there's not a lot of teams that really need a quarterback, and the ones that do, like the Saints, the Colts, they're looking for somebody more proven because they feel like they can win now.
Hold up. I'm getting word. I think Chris has something to say. Chris, you there? You got something to say? You got something to tell us about this? Chris, Honey Bun, what's good, man? How you doing this week? You on mute, man. Don't do this to us. Can you
Unmute your
hear us?
mic, Chris.
Chris, you there? Can you hear us, Chris? Ah, man, we might have to come back to Chris. We're gonna have to come back to him.
Got cut off the producer. The producer,
Ah,
producer.
ah. I know Chris had. I know he did mention that he really enjoyed what not enjoyed, but he thought that Cleveland picking up Amari Cooper was a big move for them. I'm not as big on Amari Cooper. Um, Not that he doesn't have the potential, but I haven't seen him have that dog in him the last few years. Well, last 2 years. Um, but with that said, there were a couple of other teams that were in this market for Deshaun Watson. You had most notably Pittsburgh jumped out first. They fell back, and now he goes to a division rival.
Right.
Then you had the last two, which were Atlanta and New Orleans. Now, Atlanta went full. I mean, just full stop. I mean, they brought out all the celebrities. They put Matt Ryan, who is thought to be possibly a future Hall of Famer. They put him on the back burner and just kind of told him to, wait in the wings. And they did all this for Deshaun Watson, and he kind of flirted with the idea, of saying that he wanted to go home, but he was torn between a business decision with the Saints, and he kind of spurned both teams. The Saints didn't put much out there, but did they gain anything by not having to give up picks and stuff? And they still have Jameis in the background.
Personally, I think they do. Um, one thing I can say, just Gail Benson is she's doing a great job. She's doing an excellent job, in my opinion, as the owner of the Saints. I think she's definitely wanting to make Tom Benson proud, and I think they made a pretty. I think it happened. This is a good thing for the Saints. You don't have to give away so many draft picks. You still keep your key group of young talent, and not only that, hopefully you get Michael Thomas back, and he's 100%. And Jameis Winston, I know a lot of people consider him a game manager, but last year, I mean, he did show everyone that he could be a little bit more patient, that he didn't have to force throws, and I mean, he played pretty well right up until his injury. So I'm really looking forward to see what he brings to this team whenever he doesn't have the handcuffs on him. And I think honestly, I think they're maybe one or two, three players away from being a really good team. Especially, they get another wide receiver and show up that offensive line. I think they'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. The Saints are in a good position considering they didn't have to give up all those assets um, that they would have had to give up to get Deshaun Watson. But I think the thing to talk about here is the Falcons, because what they did was they basically burned the bridge with some people consider the best player in their franchise history, in Matt Ryan. Um, you had a guy who's taken you to a Super Bowl, who's pretty much been synonymous with the Atlanta Falcons for the past 10 years or so, and you basically just said, "Yeah, we like you, but we don't like you as much as we like Deshaun Watson," and you were ready to trade him, to whoever was willing to take him if it meant that you got Deshaun Watson. But now
Mm.
that you don't get Deshaun Watson, how do you repair that relationship? Do you even are you even able to repair that relationship with Matt Ryan? And does Matt Ryan want out now, considering that that's what y'all wanted for him? Whenever it meant y'all were getting Deshaun Watson. So I think that's really the interesting dynamic of this whole who missed out on Deshaun Watson situation is the Saints. Like we're not really as invested in Jameis as the Falcons are Matt Ryan.
Mm.
Like Jameis, he's still a free agent right now, so I don't know if we really burned the bridge per se there because he wasn't guaranteed to come back anyway. But Matt Ryan, he's under contract, so he was their quarterback going into next season,
That
and
is true.
now they kind of have burned that and spurned him in a way that he might not be their quarterback going forward.
Man, if I can say, I mean, it's still a business at the end of the day. And Matt Ryan's he's a pro. He's been in the NFL a long time, and it's a business.
It,
Feelings.
it,
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I mean, there's certain way that you handle business. You know what I mean? And there's a certain thing called doing business the right way. And when you have a guy who's meant that much to the franchise and who's carried the franchise on his back for that long, you could at least give him the decency of, hey, hey Matt, we appreciate what I've done here, but I think we're gonna go in a new direction. Deshaun Watson's available. We might, you know what I mean? And you don't kind of just start making those phone calls, and once you see you have a chance, then go back to Matt Ryan and say, oh, by the way, we might be trading you because we've been talking to Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean? There's a way to
Mhm.
handle business.
Right. Um, Another piece that we were looking at, I was always wondering, what did Atlanta actually have to offer Houston? They and I think that's why they brought out all the celebrities. They lost, and we're about to bring up. They lost their number one receiver a couple years ago to in Julio. Their number two was hurt pretty much last year, and then had he had personal issues. I'll leave it at that.
But then
Um,
and he's suspended going
and
forward.
he's suspended going forward for the year. You've got Kyle Pitts, and I think it's
And they lost.
They
Every
lost Cordell Patterson too,
No,
didn't they?
Yeah, and Russell Gage.
they just re-signed Cordero, but they lost Russell Gage to
They
Tampa
lost
Bay,
Russell Gage, which is where I was going next.
and,
Russell
and they
Gage. Go ahead.
they lost their tight end Hayden Hurst. He went to Cincinnati.
Yes. Russell Gage, you mentioned that Russell Gage is now going to the Tampa Bay. Um, Look for him to have a pretty good year. He's gonna fill in that Antonio Brown spot. And we know that Tom Brady relied on Antonio Brown a lot down the stretch. Even so much so that uh, the day of the Jets game when Antonio Brown, saying took it off and left it all on the field, literally, uh, what's the guy Grayson, Cyril Grayson, who filled in for Antonio Brown, caught the game-winning touchdown that would have been Antonio Brown's touchdown. Now that Russell Gage is pretty much filling in that spot, I think he's going to have a pretty big day. I mean, a pretty big year next year. I'm not going to say all pro, but it's going to be a pretty big year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was one reason why Tom Brady wanted him because he said he just has a knack of being able to get open, and so I think like what you somebody who can play that slot role and can be big on them third downs and stuff like Tom Brady, like Antonio Brown. I think that'd be a good fit for him.
I don't know if the homer in me is talking, but I don't think they're gonna have that great of a season. I'm just being honest. I mean, you lose Grunt, you lose AB. I mean, is Leonard Fournette still on the team, or is he a
Now,
free agent currently?
him and Gronk are both free agents.
Both are free agents. So I mean, I think Grunt wife wants him to retire. So is he coming back? You know. So I mean, Brady has been playing with a pretty much stacked team for the most part when it comes to weapons in Tampa. So I mean, what is it going to look like next season for him? Because Russell Gage, don't get me wrong, he's an LSU guy. Love him. He's sneaky athletic, right? But we'll see. I mean, he's lost a lot. Tom
And,
Brady.
and yeah, he also lost the offensive lineman that Cincinnati picked up.
All right. Can we
Mm.
talk about Cincinnati?
Yes,
Let's see.
sir.
We can. Hashtag protect Joe Shiesty.
They
Yeah.
doing that, and they're doing that. They
They
doing that.
they went out and they got today. It was announced that Lyle Collins, also LSU, signed with Cincinnati. And his first, they say his first conversation with Joe, he said, "Nobody's gonna touch you. I'm your new bodyguard in town." So
Yeah. Yeah.
But they got Lyle Collins now. They got Alex Kappa from the Buccaneers, and they got a center from the Patriots, I believe. And
mm,
so they've invested heavily into the offensive line. As we know that was really the only question mark on their team last year with Joe getting hit the way he did. So, well, Eli Apple,
Okay, okay. I was just making sure we didn't forget that. I was just
yeah,
making
okay,
sure.
Eli
okay,
Apple.
okay. You got that
Okay.
one. You got that one. But
Can't forget about the
they
Mama's boy.
they invested a lot of money last year in free agency in their defense with Trey Hendrickson
Mm,
and some of those other guys. So this year it looks like they're focusing on the other side of the ball and making sure that, like you say, they protect Joe like they need to make sure that he ain't under the surgery, getting surgery again for ACL, something like that. So
it's crazy to think that as bad as that offensive line was, they were in the Super Bowl with a chance to win.
Right.
yeah, like
So
I think it was our boy Preston the other night in Spaces had mentioned that he's been sacked more in the in his first 100 or what was it? Was it his first few games and then Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck actually retired. You know what I mean
because yeah,
from the amount of injuries and stuff he was taking, and Burrow's been sacked more than Andrew Luck was. So I mean, that's you got to protect that boy, man.
And
yeah,
the thing about Burrow is, man, you get that kid time, and he gonna figure you out.
yeah,
I mean, we seen it whenever he played Clemson, like that first, the first quarter. He's like, but then the second quarter came, third quarter came, he start figuring it out, and he's done that in the NFL.
I
You
mean, in
give
that
him a little
Super
bit of
Bowl,
time, and it's a
that
wrap.
Super Bowl, that Super Bowl, in that last play, if he would have had about
he needed
another
Touchdown.
second,
another half
another
second.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that like you say, all he needs is just a little bit of time, man.
yeah, and that and Aaron Donald was outside, but we'll move on. Uh, uh, we did mention the Saints, not having to give up as many, as many personnel or make many roster moves because they didn't go, they weren't successful in the Deshaun Watson trade, but they did lose Marcus Williams to Baltimore for 5 years, 70 million. Um, they've kind of already started. The Saints have trying to fill that hole. I think it was Marcus May. Um, I know him from Florida. I'm not sure what he did in the NFL because he went to Florida and I don't keep up with him.
Right?
But I
He,
did,
he
in
came
all
from the Jets,
honesty,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In all
Yeah.
honesty, that is a pretty big pickup. He should. I don't want to make it seem like he's just going to step in and just fill in right away, but that is a pretty big pickup.
The only
Um,
only thing about him is he is coming off an injury. So
mhm.
how quick can he get back to his true self? I know the not last season, but the season before last, he did have a pretty good PFF rating. And his coverage ability was rated pretty high. But last year, like he did get injured, so we got to see how he can come back off of that.
All right, now
Is he out? Do y'all know? Isn't he out like the first 6 games of the season or something like that?
Well, he had a DUI, so I'm not sure if he's
oh,
gonna
I
be
do remember
suspended.
that.
If he's gonna be suspended for that or not.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Um, I know we've talked about it plenty in Spaces. Again, shout out to Spaces, man. Shout out to LSU Spaces.
Yeah.
Um, wide receivers. Who do the Saints go after to um accompany Mike Thomas and Traquan?
Well, Traquan a free agent, and Traquan visited the Falcons, so it ain't no guarantee he's back. But honestly, bro, anybody like
Yeah.
Jarvis,
Yeah.
Odell, it don't Julio Jones, it doesn't matter at this point. Anybody is better than what we have right. Because honestly, right now on the roster, you have Michael Thomas, you have Deontay Harris slash Hardy, who is a restricted free agent, and you have Marquez Callaway.
You were calling him um Hardy, and I heard it back, and I was laughing about that. It's
Yeah,
like, man,
so
why do we say anything? So who is Hardy?
I mean that's his name. He changed his name, but the
Okay.
NFL didn't let him change it on his
Oh,
jersey
that's
until after the
crazy.
season.
Okay,
So he had to
Hey,
go by
Thomas.
Harris, even though he had already changed his name. But yeah,
gotcha, gotcha. One thing now, I do want to go back because Chris said this last week, and we blew it off. Chris says, What about Devontae Adams?" And we all in unison said, "Oh, he's gonna come. He's coming back. He's
yeah,
going
he's
to
coming
sign.
back.
He's coming
He
back."
going back to Green Bay.
He has joined his college quarterback Derek Carr in Oakland.
That's
Not so
hilarious.
fast.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Las Vegas, not Oakland. Um, do you feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, or do you? I
I think it's
mean, what
hilarious.
it's so. I think that's what I was getting at, but I want to set the question. I don't think we feel bad for nobody feels bad for Aaron Rodgers anymore. It used to be a Green Bay isn't giving him the weapons he needs. He's being wasted. They've screwed him over, but it's gotten to the point where Aaron Rodgers is completely flipped. And you used the quote last week. You live long enough to be. I mean, you either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And Aaron Rodgers has completely become the villain in Green Bay. Everybody who, even people who were big Aaron Rodgers fans are now they respect his talent is on the field, but they like off the field completely just against this guy. Um, I don't know what to say. Chris was right about that one. That was a
Definitely, definitely.
we
Man,
so
Aaron Rodgers, to me, honestly, I don't like the guy. You know,
mm,
I think I've made that pretty clear through our Spaces conversation.
yeah,
He's complained a lot about the front office of Green Bay, and I feel like they've done everything they can to make it right for him. But it's apparent that he is a little bit toxic. Some of his teammates don't really like playing with him, and not saying that's the reason why Adams left, because of course we know that him and Carr played together in college and they have a pretty good relationship. They train
right.
together in the off season. But
If I'm
we
not
know you,
mistaken, they
Aaron.
were roommates too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Aaron. Yeah, man. Aaron's toxic, man. Go ahead, Aaron. My bad.
Nah, you good, bro. I say, I think Aaron Rodgers had a feeling this was coming.
mm,
I think that's part of the reason why he took that money that he did. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot of money now, thanks to Deshaun Watson. But when he first signed the deal, we were all like, he got how much, So
right.
I think he knew it was coming. And if you remember before the season, they both posted the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen last dance picture. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Before the season, so I think that they both knew that this was their last ride together,
Makes
and
sense.
that both of them weren't going to be back next season. Maybe one of them, but I think that they knew that both of them weren't going to be back next year.
I think that it was thought that Devontae was coming back and Aaron wasn't,
Yeah,
and it flipped. So
Yeah.
I can agree with that. I can agree
okay.
with that.
Another wide receiver that got a pretty decent payday and moved on. And it was a LSU. Well, I'm sorry, a New Orleans Saints target. DJ Shark. He went to Detroit for I think about 12 mil. So good for him coming off injury, but we've seen DJ Sharp be explosive and dangerous, even in Jacksonville. So um, hopefully Jared Goff can do something with this. And I say that with a big question
Right.
because it's Jared Goff.
Yeah. And I think
I
Chargers on like a 1 year prove a deal too.
Yeah, it's
So
a one
yeah.
deal.
yeah.
I think he didn't like the market that he had for himself, so he betting on himself that he can make more next year.
Okay. Um, interesting stat because I brought up about Jared Goff. How many games Detroit win last year? One, two, or how many did he win?
I think one or two.
Did you know Jared Goff is only however many he won last year? I think it was the one or maybe two. That he has never won a game without Sean McVay.
Hmm.
That one or two he won was the first game
Yeah,
he'd ever
yeah,
won
that's true.
without Sean McVay. That's
Wow.
Yeah,
interesting. Now, one last thing. I guess we got to some salute and Andrew Whitworth. He officially announced his retirement after 16 seasons in the NFL. He had 4 Pro Bowls. Now he has a Super Bowl ring. He already had a college natty, and he had a state high school natty. Well, I'm sorry, state
and,
high school championship.
and well, no, you said it right. He won. They were national champions, and West Monroe was national
Oh,
champions when he was in high school. So yeah,
West
you're right.
Monroe University.
You ain't lying. But hey, speaking of a former LSU guy that played for the Rams, that's possibly played the last game, maybe Odell. Um,
Hmm.
We've seen the Rams make a move for Allen Robinson,
Hmm.
and they traded Robert Woods. Does that mean that they still have Cup and they have Van Jefferson in that that third wide receiver role? Are they done with Odell? And if so, what is his market like coming off of back to back major injuries like that?
Mm. I
If
would
you want to
say,
go ahead, Daniel, because I yeah.
now I would say, man, I'm a little nervous for Odell. He's coming off of back-to-back seasons, with injuries, and it didn't go too well with Cleveland. And man, when he came to the Rams, man, he was balling. You could tell that Super Bowl was kind of going to be his coming out party. That was the game plan, feed Odell. And I'm concerned about him because he's super duper explosive, and we know that with an ACL injury, it's not how it used to be. Guys can't
Mhm.
come back from that injury. But Odell has been in the NFL for a while, and if I'm not mistaken, this is his second time tearing his ACL. It's the opposite leg, though, right?
Mhm.
So
I believe so.
yeah. So I mean, I wish him the best. I hope he comes to New Orleans, but I'm nervous for him, man. I hope he
Agree.
can bounce back.
Yeah. I think that I don't think this necessarily means that the Rams are done with him. Because if you think about it, the Rams brought him in um to a company, although they had Cup, Van Jefferson, and Robert Woods, and it just so happened the timing, um, Robert Woods got hurt almost the same week that Odell was there. So I don't think that's necessarily saying that they're done with him. But I do think that with all the injuries, the media narrative against him, I do think Odell's unfortunately he's not, I'm not saying his career's coming to an end, but he's probably on the other side of that hill, preparing um preparing for the final ride, the last dance, I guess you can say.
I
Um
mean, then right before you leave this topic, Poop. I mean, you look at what the Rams did in the Super Bowl. You know,
mm,
they didn't
they
have too
were
many
fiend.
weapons.
Yeah.
And losing Robert Woods. I mean, hey, you might want to keep him. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say he was the offensive game plan prior to his injury.
yeah,
Uh, they pretty and to their credit, Cincinnati pretty much had Cooper Cup in check. At that point, Odell was feed him, and they couldn't do anything about it.
yeah. He
And
was about to make Eli Apple look silly.
uh, about to,
Yeah,
um,
right. It's gonna be a long game.
it was, ooh, man.
Yeah,
Moving down a level, LSU football. It came out this week. Coach Kelly announced that practices will now be open to the media on certain days. No more of the 15, 20-minute viewings that the media was accustomed to.
mhm,
He was going to open it up on certain days. They had full access. They would also have access to interview the three coordinators, meaning Bill Polian, Matt House, and Mike Denbrock. That's something that LSU has not. As far as interviewing the coordinators, I'm not sure if they've had that ever outside of bowl games. But as far as opening up the media for um, viewing practice, I know it's been some years, and because I know that's been kind of a complaint from several media members. They've had several complaints about a lot of things, and Brian Kelly seemed to come in and change that a lot.
Yeah, to me, that just shows that he has nothing to hide, man. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like he's confident in his program. You know what I mean, and he knows that he's hired great coordinators who aren't gonna go in front of the media and say the wrong thing or embarrass the
Mhm.
program or anything, give away anything that they're not supposed to give away. I think that that's one reason why he's not scared to let his guys go out there and talk to the media. And as far as opening up the practices, it's in line with what I just said. He has nothing to hide. He's transparent, and he's confident in that. Even though if he shows some practices, his teams are still going to be able to line up and compete whenever it counts.
yeah, I agree
Agreed.
with that. I agree.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm looking forward. to see what kind of drills they have. You know, I'm that kind of football nerd,
Yeah,
but you know, just to see the organization and you know how practices are run, and you know, I'm just ready for football season, and I'm glad that we'll get a chance to look even deeper into you know the spring
yeah.
game. So
Yeah, I know the football team's doing conditioning and stuff now. Just hearing Mike Jones like on Are You Serious? His interviews on Thursdays, hearing him talk about the team, like I'm pumped. I'm
yeah,
pumped. Let me bring up the spring dates again. Spring date is actually starts this week. It starts Thursday. Um, Spring practice starts Thursday. The spring March 24th, and then the spring game will be April 23rd. Um, it has been announced by the SEC that the spring game will be televised on one of the SEC networks, whereas SEC Network or the alternatives or the online, but it will be televised. Actually, they announced that all of the SEC games will be aired on ESPN's slate of channels. Of course, Georgia coming off a national championship, they will get kind of first rights. I think they're either going to be on ESPN or ESPN2 for a spring game. So that's been out there. So that's pretty good. But I think that the stadium may still be packed because I think a lot of people want to see what's going to happen.
heck yeah,
I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if y'all remember, 2006, 2007, Saban's first year at Bama. It was 90,000
Mhm.
there. I don't know if LSU is going to necessarily have 90,000 in the building, but I do think it's going to be a
yeah.
lot of people there.
And I think that goes back to one of the previous thing we just talked about, that transparency and opening up practices and letting the media, talk to the coordinators. That's going to allow more fans to have that access, so that you're going to, attract more fans to the program, to the spring game, whenever they can see more what's going on.
Build
Mhm.
excitement. Yeah. I also,
Yeah.
man, I'm interested to see, you know, who gets, you know, the first reps, the first team reps, you know, when it
Yeah.
comes to the spring
Mm,
game. And I mean, who do you guys feel like they're going to pull out first? You know, as far as like practice, you know, practice starts this week. Who's going to get those first team reps this week?
To my QB,
Yeah, QB, come on,
Jay
mm.
Daniels.
I
JJ.
know people who are listening to the actual podcast. They can't see you, but everybody on the screen has a big smile on their face because I think we all have that feeling. Jaden Daniels is probably going to get first team reps. I think,
I think he'll probably get it like probably in the game, but
yeah,
of course I know he's fresh. You know, he's fresh to the team, so I give it 2 weeks.
Well. Let me tell you this, brother. Let me tell you this. I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
this coaching staff is new, so every quarterback is new to this coaching staff.
mm,
But I mean, has he had any time? At least, you know, maybe Miles and Nuss probably had a
Yeah.
little bit of time with the playbook. You know what I'm saying?
but
Well,
So
from my
this
from
is new playbook for everybody too. That's
and,
something to think about.
that's
and
true.
from what I've heard, he's already graduated.
Yeah.
Jay Daniels, so he doesn't have the same academic requirements as some of the other quarterbacks do. So he has more time to be in the film room and in there meeting with Dem Brock and some of them other
It
guys. So
sounds like a Joe Burrow situation. I'm
Yeah,
not
which
putting any pressure on him, but I'm just saying.
so
and yeah, I get what you're saying though. Eat, sleep, breathe football. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, we thought that was with the summer of 20 before the 2020 season. We thought that was what was going to happen with Miles. Well, I'm sorry, the spring. But we thought that
Yeah.
was going to happen with Miles because Miles graduated and he was going to have all this time and he was going to do the Joe Burrow, eat, sleep. You know, what I'm saying everything in football ops, study the
No, he
playbook.
definitely did eat and sleep. But yeah.
But yeah, we thought that was going to be Miles, and that kind of didn't pan out because of injuries. I will say this, that 2020 season, being as unique as it was because of the COVID, I do think that Miles probably would have done some promising things. The
Yeah.
team itself was not that good, but just simply because of scheme and what we know is Coach O's meddling on both sides of the ball. Well, on the defensive side, he did not meddle with because you can tell offense was still putting up numbers. They weren't moving the ball quite as easily and fluidly
If
as they did in 2019. But
let me ask you this too, Pooh. I mean,
mhm.
let's be fair. If he would have had Jamar Chase, you know, how big of a difference that would have made? You know, if we're really going to be honest, I think that would have played a big part
If you
in.
look at Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, um, who was the
Keishawn
number?
Butte.
Kayshawn Butte,
Yeah,
Racy was still there too.
yeah,
Racy, Arik Gilbert.
yeah,
I think it would have opened that offense up a lot more. I think the running you wouldn't have to rely on the running game as much because you Miles would have he would have been able to he didn't let's be honest he didn't trust the receivers that much,
right.
especially early in that Mississippi State game he didn't trust the receivers much and they had to rely on the run game, and the run game was not getting any push. Um, not hardly any in the beginning. So yeah, that I think that would have been Jamar Chase would have been a game changer, but I think a full spring practice, would have been a
Yeah.
game changer as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, well, let's move on and talk about unfortunately the true end of the Will Wade era.
Yeah,
Men's basketball, one and done. Iowa State beat them 59-54. The game was it was close at times, and it was
It was
far.
ugly.
Yeah, it was ugly all the way through. 19 points in the first half.
yeah.
I don't think LSU has ever scored 19 points in the first half of any game. Oh, the football team has scored 19 points in the first half.
You had you
And
had more turnovers than made shots by this team. So I mean,
Yeah.
you ain't gonna win many games like that.
yeah. I mentioned it on Tigers Avenue podcast Friday night. Shout out to Reagan and Zach. They had me on, and that was kind of the first thing because it was immediately after the game. Um, so I was riding back. I was out of town, so I was riding back to the hotel, listening to the game. So I wasn't seeing. I was just hearing, all the missed shots and the announcers, say, "Oh, missed shot, oh, turnover, oh," Um, but then when I actually sat, got to the room and was able to watch the game, the team looked defeated, like mentally,
Hmm.
like emotionally drained. They were not there.
I,
I
I mean, I
Go
think
ahead,
it's safe
Daniel.
to say that Newberry is definitely not possibly going to be uh, probably getting that interview.
Nickelberry.
Whatever
I
his
think
name is, Newberry, Nickelberry, he
I,
Oldberry
I,
now. So,
I
speaking
think
speaking of that, because of last week, I've been singing Nickelback in my mind all week because of
look at this.
hey,
looking
but
to the photograph. That's been on
I
my
think
mind all week. But
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
think it's unfair to criticize Nickelberry too much in this situation, though, because like I do understand that you have a week that you can install new things, kind of change things schematically, and kind of put your wrinkle into it as far as a head coach. But I think what a lot of people aren't realizing is that he had to get this team mentally ready to play basketball again, man. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
how much time did he actually spend on X's and O's, and how much of it was just getting the guys mentally ready to play a game? Like I said, like I think a lot of his time was spent talking and listening and kind of being motivating than actually X's and O's. So I understand people criticizing him for the team looking the same as it did under Will Wade, but I
They look
think
worse.
part of that is one, mentally they were out of it, and two, there's only so much that he can do, as when you only have a week to prepare. So I do understand the criticism. I just think we need to kind of give him a little bit of slack, and kind of look at the whole picture of what all he was asked to do. And it wasn't just Will Wade that got fired. They were down
Yeah.
two coaches. So I mean, that's he has to kind of fill the void of what Armstrong and Will Wade would be doing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. Nickelback. So he did have the team schematically. They they were they were in the game, um, to the very end, but Coach Nickelberry did not for shoot free throws.
Right.
Uh, Coach Nickelberry did not guard 3-point shots from 5 feet away.
He didn't have
Um,
19 turnovers either.
the one thing I can kind of I can kind of jab at him about was the extra player
Yeah, the
tech.
tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Um,
was
Yeah.
and that part of that was I look at him for coaching awareness, but also that was the refs, because I was like they he sent the guy to the scores table and they immediately started play, and so I was kind of, because I didn't even realize that 6 people were on the court until they called the tech, and they're like, what, who are they taking up, what's going on? So yeah, but that's the one thing I can kind of, like I said, I can point the finger and say, hey, that's on you. But I think that he did as much as he could with what he could. And yeah, like you said, and Will Wade was fired last Saturday, and they played
Friday.
Friday. So not even a week, 6 days. So, and you had accounted, you have to account for travel time in there too.
Right.
So,
Right.
um, speaking on staying with this
But
basketball, go ahead.
let me say this. I think where we at. I said this on Twitter too. I think where we at right now as a program, it kind of feels like we just finalized a divorce. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And we kind of got closure, knowing that that chapter of our lives is over with. You know what I mean? Like we know that that's done and over with. But when we look forward, we know we got a rocky road ahead. Even though we don't
mm,
know what these sanctions are, you know what I mean? We know we got a rocky road ahead regardless, and it's almost like, yeah, we just finalized the divorce, but now we gotta build, we gotta start from scratch, and we gotta, you know what I mean, build everything back from scratch. So yeah, we happy that that's done, but looking forward, it's still kind of bleak. You know what I mean?
yeah. Speaking of bleak, moving on. 3 of the 4 commitments that we had on the basketball team have decommitted, and number 4 is shortly after. He hasn't yet, but the writing's on the wall.
Hopefully he doesn't.
Yeah. Now the kids that all decommitted all mentioned Coach Will Wade. His firing is the reason they're decommitting. And that kind of brings me back to a thought I had about, and I know it's different with basketball, but it brought me back to a thought I had about Ed Orgeron during, when he was fired. When these coaches are out recruiting these players and stuff, are they selling themselves more than they're selling the school? Because Aaron Anderson, for example, Aaron Anderson said he made the comment that he had a deal with Ed Orgeron that, hey, if you get fired, then I'm decommitting and I'm going to Alabama or something to that effect. So again, are the coaches selling? And I get there's going to be a, hey, I can help you progress in your career. I can do this, but you should still go to LSU regardless because LSU is a fine institution, or you should, LSU can provide you with. And I know you
I
guys
get,
understand what I'm
I get,
saying.
yeah, I get. I think it's a little bit of both, though. Honestly, bro. Like, yeah, you have to sell the school. You know what I mean? Because they still have to, attend the school while they're there. But in basketball, especially since that they can only be there for 1 year, you know
Right.
what I mean?
One
You
year is only mandatory. Yeah, that's correct.
Exactly. So you have to sell relationships more than you sell the institution. I mean, look at Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't go to class when he was at LSU. You know what I mean? It wasn't about, he didn't come to LSU because of the institution. He came
Mm,
because of the relationship he had with a coach on staff. You know,
correct.
if you listen to Efton Reed's mom talk about why she gave her, her blessing to Will Wade for Efton to come here, it was because of the relationship Will Wade built with her and
Mm,
with Efton. So I think you have to sell the school, yes, but more so than anything in basketball especially, you have to sell relationships, because the coaches is who the players are going to be around all the time. The coaches are who they're going to be traveling with. The coaches who is ultimately responsible for the well being of their child while they're on campus. So I think I think what coaches do more than selling the institution is they sell themselves and they sell the relationship that you know what I mean that they're building or have built with the recruit.
I
Mhm.
mean, I also believe that Aaron Anderson wasn't coming to LSU anyways, so that was a pretty convenient excuse. But I definitely agree with you what you're saying. That like you said, those guys are only going to be here. They only have to be in college for a year. A lot of them, if they didn't have to come to college or come to school, they wouldn't. They'll probably go straight to the NBA. If they will make it or not, who knows? But I think that's the only reason why that's so important.
Well, so let me ask this question. This kind of off topic. Well, it's on topic, but I know we weren't necessarily thinking to talk about this. But is it time for for the NBA to get rid of the one and done rule?
No, not in my opinion.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of leaning with what's so my thing, Daniel. What's the point?
Well,
Because you
I
have a
look at
G
it
League,
right,
so you don't need college for that. I mean,
right.
if a player's gonna, if a player's ready, and he doesn't make it, G League, we've seen kids go overseas to play. And I'm gonna let you answer.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
No, 100%.
What's the point of going to college?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of guys aren't really ready. You know,
Uh,
um, we know that college basketball is slimy. We know college sports in general is slimy, but I think a lot of kids can get a lot of kids can get taken advantage of. By agents. They already are. But, I think it's best that they at least get the opportunity to go to school, and then, they get that 1 year, because a lot of guys, they come into to college basketball, and, we think, oh man, that guy, hopefully he can be, a top 5 pick. And then whenever they get on that court, and then no, you need to come back, bro. So, that's my reasoning behind that. I do think guys should take advantage of going to play in Europe, or if you do think that you can be a one and done, or you can skip um, the NCAA. I think you should go play over in Europe if you think you're ready for it.
I
well,
I say this. The only reason that there is the one and done rule now is because NBA owners were upset that they were drafting high school players high and not getting the return on investment that they thought that they should get. And if you ask me, that's not on the high school kid. That's on the scouting department and the general manager of the NBA team that picked the high school kid. So I don't think that it's fair that certain high school Kevin Durant did not need to go to Texas. Kevin Durant could have went straight to the NBA. Carmelo Anthony did not need to go to Syracuse. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys don't have to go to college. And
but
so
Carmelo
yeah,
went
I know that was
he
before. I'm
during the
just
time,
saying,
yeah,
yeah,
before,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
he could
agree.
have went.
I agree.
But yeah, but my point is, if you're ready, you shouldn't have to go to college. You know what I mean for a year, just
But who's
before you can
telling
go
these
to the
guys that
NBA.
they're ready though?
That it doesn't. I mean, you got guys who leave now who go to college for a year and leave, and they still don't get drafted. So what difference would the one and done rule be? Getting rid of the one and done rule, it wouldn't change. Some players are going to go in the NBA draft and not get drafted, whether there's a one and done rule or there's not. I mean, you're not going to really change people who are leaving it or entering the draft and not get drafted. The only thing you're doing is in my opinion, is you're hurting the college game because you have schools who are giving scholarships to these guys that are one and dones that are going to be gone the next year when they could be giving a scholarship to a guy who's going to be there for 3 or 4 years and actually, what we consider a college star. Somebody who stayed Darius Days type guy who's going to be there for 4 years instead of getting a scholarship to a guy who's going to be one and done.
Um, I think I think the one and done should be done. Should be over. Um, but I do think that NBA is different. I think you should have one or two things. You should have either like baseball where you can go pro, but if you go to college, you have to do 3 years,
I like that.
or you can enter your name in the draft. If you're not drafted, then you're still eligible to go to college.
Yeah.
I like
So
either one of those. Yeah,
Same. I think honestly the NFL should do that also.
I like the high school. What?
no, I
Not
can't.
I,
Nah.
when I let me
Oh well,
rephrase that.
I get,
They
I understand
yeah
what you're
they
saying.
so
Yeah,
they should
not
get
out
the
of high
wherever.
school.
opportunity to go back to
Yeah. Okay.
school. I don't
Okay.
think
Okay.
I don't think high school
Yeah.
kids should
Okay.
be
To
drafted.
say,
But
man,
Heck
I
no.
know some high school kids will get they knock when they head knocked off in
100%.
college, so they definitely
Yeah.
don't need to put their name in
No,
the NFL. But
100%.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's go back because I know we were heading. We were talking about LSU and the decommitments, and um, recently, so a few names have kind of popped out as head coaching candidates to replace Will Wade. Will Scott Woodward's um, to complete his legacy. Saying his legacy at LSU. He'll be at he can say he's hired coaches for the Big Four. The Big Four being football, baseball, women's basketball, and now men's basketball. Some candidates popped up. Some names have popped out. 247 put out a list. And I know you kind of did a little research. You got some names that you like. Can you give us some names?
well, I'm not gonna necessarily say that these are names that I like. I think these are names that are considering the situation that the program is going to be in. I think these are names that are kind of in the realm of possibility, unlike some of these other names. I've seen people talking about Bill Self and Jay Wright, and I just don't think that that's logical, man. And so I've also seen people talking about Scott Drew from Baylor. So I'll give you my first candidate. That's his little brother, Bryce Drew.
Mm, okay.
He coached at Valparaiso where he played ball. He coached at Vanderbilt, and now he's the coach at Grand Canyon State. He has a plus 600 winning percentage for his career. He's won the regular season 4 times. He's won the conference tournament 3 times, and he's been to the NCAA tournament 4 times in 10 years. And plus, he was born in Baton Rouge.
Mm,
So, and then you got Ed Cooley, who's the coach at Providence right now. He's won the conference
I like
championship.
I
He
like
won
Ed Cooley.
he's won the conference twice. He's won the conference tournament once, 6 time NCAA appearances, and around 60% winning percentage for his career. Steve Alford, who's coached at multiple Power Five schools like UCLA and Iowa, and he's also taken a couple mid majors to the NCAA tournament. He's a 4 time conference champ, 5 time conference tournament winner. He's made the NCAA tournament multiple times. He has 4 Sweet 16 appearances and a Final Four appearance, and he's got like 65% winning percentage for his career. Then some of these other guys are like long term who have been assistants for a little while in their career, and some of them have head coaching experience, some don't. One of them is Johnny Dawkins, who was at Duke for a long time, who
Mm,
coached under Coach K, who coached at Stanford as a head coach, and he's at UCF now. He hadn't had as much of a success, but I think he'll be good at guiding the program through the sanctions of anything like that because of, like I said, he's been an assistant for a long time, so he knows recruiting real well, and he's been under Coach K. So I think with the name recognition, well, would kind of hit with recruits. And the next one was under Coach K as well. He's currently the head coach at Harvard. His name is Tommy Amaker. He's been a 7 time conference champion, 5 time tournament winner with a Sweet 16 appearance, and he's like Harvard's all-time winning leader. He's pretty much set every record at Harvard. First program ran over a ranked team, first time being ranked, all that kind of stuff. He did that at Harvard. And last is somebody who beat LSU this year, assistant for Arkansas, Keith Smart. He's from Baton Rouge. He was NBA assistant for a long time. He's been in Arkansas for the last couple of years on Musselman's staff, and he was the one who coached for Musselman when he was out for injury against LSU whenever they beat us at the PMAC. So he's familiar with the SEC, and he's familiar with the college game now, and he's got credit for getting a lot of recruits to Arkansas in the past couple of years. So I think that's another name that we should be looking out for. But
okay, I like that. I like that. Daniel, do you have any names you want to throw in there?
Yeah, yeah. I have five. Mine are some may be obvious and some may not. First one is Mac Mahone. He's a Murray State head coach. The thing about him, which I'm kind of iffy on, is he kind of has the same background as Will Wade. He comes from a small school, hasn't really coached at a big Power Five school, but the guy knows how to win. He has a 70% winning record. Um, he went 18-0 in his conference play this past season, which is very impressive. My second coach is Scott Drew, the big brother, and of course, he won the national championship last year. He's a three-time Big 12 Coach of the Year, and his annual salary right now at Baylor is 2.7 million. Honestly, I think LSU could probably pay him a little bit more than that. And we have a history of doing pretty good with Baylor coaches. Um, Also, next I have Matt Painter. He's currently the Purdue head coach. He's a three-time Big Ten champion. He's the 2019 National Champion of the Year, and he's the four-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. So God knows how to coach basketball, and he's a winner. Next is Kelvin Sampson. Um, this guy can coach his butt off.
Yes,
He does
sir.
have some NBA experience. Um, the thing about him is he does kind of have a record. He's had some run-ins with the NCAA, but the good thing is we don't know what the LSU sanctions will be. But kind of like with Houston, he came in right after they got off of probation, and he definitely helped that team out. So I think he would be an excellent coach. He can definitely coach. He's been doing it a long time, and this is my wishful. Tom Izzo, he's a big fish, right? We know.
Won't
Look,
happen.
a guy can
But go
dream,
ahead.
right? I
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
dream.
Go ahead.
We know Woodward is a big game hunter. So let's see what time Izzo can come down and do at LSU. I think we can pay him
Hey,
some good
can I
money.
can I throw a wish list candidate out there since he did?
Throw a wish list out there.
My wish list guy is Tony Bennett. Um,
Okay.
former he at Virginia now, won the national championship 2019 season. He kind of hasn't he's kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. They're still a good team, but
Yeah.
they're not at that national champion contender level that they were. And if I'm not mistaken, his wife is from Baton Rouge, and
Mhm.
he's shown that he can recruit Louisiana because one of his best players is from Baton Rouge area, Scotlandville. So I think that's a guy who, considering that he isn't at the pinnacle that he was a few years ago, you might could pull him away from Virginia, especially if the money's right and with the ties to the local, to Baton Rouge through his wife. I think that might be a guy who we probably could steal away, maybe if the money's right. But that's my wish list guy.
Yep.
Okay. So I only had three, and y'all have said my three. So I ain't going to even go through a whole run. I'm gonna go through a rundown on only one.
Yeah.
So, um, McMahon from Murray State, um, Tony Bennett, and this is no particular order because actually I say the best for last, Kelvin Sampson. Um, the reason why I like Kelvin Sampson, yes, he had issue running with the NCAA. The only stat that I actually did kind of look up on him, he has a 741 win percentage. He's 169, 197 and 69. Um, Earlier this year, his starting point guard went down for the season, and Houston kept rolling.
You mean to tell me that losing one player doesn't derail the whole season?
Funny you should say that.
Oh, oh,
Interesting.
Because all we've heard all season from LSU fans is if we had Adam Miller was the starting point guard, which I agree.
and he
It
was
would
a
have been a
scorer.
difference. Yeah, he was the scorer. I agree. If we had Adam Miller, it would have been completely different. Then it was when Pinson went down. Oh, it's because Pinson's out. It's because Pinson's out. And again, Pinson made a difference. He does make a difference. We're not selling that short. But what I'm saying is we have a coach who was able to coach around that. Another thing that, and it came out today after the game. I don't know if you guys heard the press conference. He talked about Kevin Sampson's mentioned. Um, I went to the NBA so I could learn better how to be a better offensive coach. And if you like today, Houston, the way they played today and the way they played all season is not a this is my key scorer. It is this guy's hot right now, but it's evenly spread out. The starting point guard averages well, not well now. Sheed, he averages Shed. I think I can't remember how you pronounce it. But he averages 9 points. He had like 16 or 17 today. He stepped up big when they needed it, and they would run. Houston would do they do hustle plays, and they say they hustle and they try to make plays to demoralize
Yeah,
the other team.
I love it.
Ah man,
I love
it's like
it.
that kind of mentality is what we need at LSU. That's what any team needs, but that's the kind of mentality that we need at LSU.
I,
Um,
I add this though.
mhm,
His post game interview, whenever they were talking to him on court, he was talking about how he, whenever he water, basically talking, it was a metaphor for watering plants, but he was talking about his players. It was like we water the roots. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So he isn't just a basketball X's and O's guy. You know what I mean? But he's somebody who, like you see with Brian Kelly, who's he wants to build men. You know what I mean? And I
right.
think that's one thing that Kevin Sampson does real well is holistically, not just the player but the person. Also, he builds both
Mhm,
of them.
right. Right. Speaking of today's game, I think all the games have gone final. This weekend has been a lot of upsets. That's the one thing we love about March Madness. It's the upsets, the little guys getting that chance and proving themselves. So far, it looks like this year's Cinderella is St. Peter's. Um, let's see who do y'all offhand know who St. Peter's is taking down? I know
They
they're
took down. They took down the state of Kentucky. They took down Kentucky, then Murray State.
there
It's in
you
the state
go.
of Kentucky.
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, it's been and not just them. Iowa State, who beat LSU, also knocked off Wisconsin tonight, again by 5. Moving on to the Sweet 16.
Miami beat Auburn tonight.
Miami beat Auburn. Notre Dame beat Alabama, and did they win? No, they lost today. But upsets are just have continued to be a staple in March Madness. Um, I'm not going to ask because I already know. Your brackets are busted. So who is your favorite still in, or who's your new favorite? Well, when I say favorite, who's your new favorite to win it all? Not necessarily who your favorite team, but who's your favorite to win it all?
I had Arizona, so
Okay.
I'm sticking with Arizona, even though out of my Final Four, I only have two teams remaining, and that was the teams I had in the national championship game: Duke and Arizona. Kentucky,
Mm,
Kentucky let me down, and Wisconsin let me down, man. So
Yeah,
mm.
yeah, I'm down to just two.
Okay,
yeah.
Daniel.
I had Kentucky winning it all. Um, but honestly, I'm rooting for Iowa State. Um, they beat us, and uh, they got a pretty good aggressive team, and
Okay.
well, we'll see how it goes.
Hey, it's crazy. They've won the same amount of games in this tournament this year that they won all last season.
Right, right.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Wow. Um. So I cheated. Um.
You just made your bracket tonight.
No, no, no. When I say I cheated, so my favorites, because I didn't really do a bracket this year. I
You
hadn't
took the
done one.
odds, huh?
Yeah, I took the odds. But the teams I like Houston. I said that I kind of said that earlier in the year that I think Houston is a team that can make some noise. Houston, Villanova, just simply because Jay Wright, that man can coach. That
Yeah.
man can coach, and I think they have again like Houston, they've got that grit. Um, and also Gonzaga, which Gonzaga has flaws. There are two games against Georgia State. The score at
Struggle.
halftime was
Struggle.
35-33, and then they came out and won by 22.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And they, They
Uh,
struggled last night too.
yeah, they did struggle, but they pulled it out at the end. They
Yeah,
they always find a way to pull it out at the end. So those are my three. Speaking of pulling out at the end, women's basketball, LSU's women's basketball.
Hmm.
Whew. We talked about Jackson State last week making the tournament, and I did not realize that they were on a winning streak. 20 at the time it was what 21 straight games.
21 straight. Yep.
First of all, before we even dive into the game, congratulations to Coach Reed and the wonderful job she's done at Jackson State.
Incredible.
Um, she does not get the credit she deserves. I know some statements and stuff have been made, so I haven't fully heard what was said, so I don't want to dive into that yet. But stay tuned because we may have something special for you. But I do want to say that she's done a phenomenal job at Jackson State. Um, and at one point in the game yesterday, they were up 10 with 5 minutes left. Um, but Kim Mulkey being Kim Mulkey, game plan, and I talked to one of my cousins who's a Jackson State grad, and he was telling me that the difference in that game was LSU has been in those situations, playing top talent, and has been down and knows they're battle tested and knows how to, battle back. He said, Kim, you can see it. Kim Mulkey dialing up plays and attacking um, the bigs, putting them in foul trouble and scoring and stuff. So, congratulations to the women team. They play tomorrow night. They play Ohio State, but they did beat Jackson State 83-77. Um, any further comments on the game before we move on? I did have one more thing about the women's team, but I'll just in case you guys have something.
Man, I'm just so impressed, with Kim Mulkey and what she's done with this basketball program. I mean, it's phenomenal. You talk about a basketball program, the women's basketball program the last couple of years, have been an afterthought. And the fact that, what she's done in a year is just how many coaches literally come in in one year and pretty much, I mean, she raised the basketball program up from the dead. So
Man, I
she done an
saw I
excellent job.
saw a crazy stat. I saw a crazy stat. Kim Mulkey now has the same amount of NCAA tournament wins as Will Wade at
At
LSU.
Jeez,
LSU, that is
jeez,
phenomenal.
jeez.
Wow, she
And just
has
kick
the
the man while he
same
down,
amount.
bro.
Hey,
Wow.
hey, I'm just reciting the stat. I ain't, I wasn't the one who
Nah, I'm just
posted it.
messing.
To to
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
to be fair,
She could pass
who?
him tomorrow.
Yeah, she can. To be fair, Tony Bedford didn't even when he stepped in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
year,
yeah. He got more.
he got two.
Hey, and everybody said Trent Johnson's such a terrible coach. Trent Johnson and Will Wade both have the same amount of conference championships and
Mm,
tournament wins at LSU.
yeah. Mm.
interesting, interesting. So not
Just
gonna
saying.
not gonna kick them wise down. Back to the women's side.
Kick it
Before
back.
the tournament started, the entire women's basketball team signed an NIL deal. With was it Coin
Game coin.
Game Coin. Congratulations to them. Those they deserve it. They've had a phenomenal year,
Right.
and just many kudos. I wish them nothing but the best, and I think that we'll continue to see. Hopefully, yesterday was a wake up call, and Ohio State goes down. Um, Speaking of going down, baseball team. We gonna talk some baseball. The baseball team opened up series play. SEC play this week. Um, Playing against Texas A&M. They lost the series 2-1, but they did battle back today to avoid the sweep, winning 7-6. Blake Money did not start Friday night, as we know he had an injury coming into the game, so they gave him an extra day's rest, and he came out yesterday. Um, but the problems of this team, actually, there was pretty much a Johnny Holstaff approach all weekend. The problems of this team um, have been pointed out to be pitching, has been defense. But I think the main problem that this team has faced this year has been errors. They've been in almost every game this year except for errors. Every game this weekend, they've been in except for errors. Um, Errors cost them game one. I think it was tied going into the late innings. I want to say at least the seventh. It was tied going into the ninth last night. And it was tied again going into the eighth, but LSU managed to score to go ahead. Um, Cooper, Riley Cooper, I think that's his name, and Razelman. First of all, kudos to them. I know Cooper pitched. Riley Cooper pitched every game this weekend, and you can see it in them. They threw everything they had, literally. The last out that Razorman got, he threw, and you could see it all come out of him as it went across for a strike. Um, I don't know if we want to stay here long, but I did want to give a synopsis of the baseball.
I,
Um,
I'll say this. You pretty much spot on with everything you said. But the good thing about this baseball team is the problems that they're having they're all fixable problems.
mhm,
You know what I mean? The errors that could be corrected. The pitching can't necessarily be fixed, but you can tinker with the substitutions and the rotation to where you can kind of iron that part out.
mhm,
The main thing to me is we have some guys up at the plate who haven't really been what we expected them to be. And I think once we start seeing those guys come around at the plate a little bit more, then we'll start seeing this team, be who we expected them to be. Because a lot of the team feeds off what happens at the plate. Arguably your best player, Dylan Cruz, when he isn't having the season we expected him to have, that kind of that can kind of get him into a funk, and it can kind of spread into the rest of the team. So I think once we see him, the bat come alive for him, we'll start to see the energy of the team pick up, and hopefully some of those errors and stuff like that will go away.
mhm.
Yeah. I just think also, I mean, it's the beginning of the season. Give them some time. New coaching staff. I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right. We're now also not going to stay here long. The softball team played against Texas this weekend, and they got swept. The scores were 0-3, 0-4, and 10-11. Um, so far, they're 20-10 on the season. Um, Still an early season. I know softball plays. I want to say close to 50 games, so they're by no stretch of the imagination out of it. They're actually in a pretty good spot in the SEC because they beat Alabama, handed Alabama his first two losses last weekend. So they're in a good spot. And again, we don't have to stay there long. But I did want to mention the Lady Diamond Tigers. So. Um, Moving on, something that we've kind of talked about a lot today, or kind of briefly mentioned: mental health, mental stability, mental strength. Um, Michael Beasley was on the
Pivot.
Pivot. I was going to say I Am Athlete. I was thinking he was on the Pivot podcast, and he was talking about mental health. He was talking about just in respect to um, basketball players. He was saying like, and he gave for example, Dwight Howard was on TV and he cried, he shed some tears, and got clowned for it. They called him soft. They joke on him, and that's something that I know that in the black community, mental health is it has a bad stigma on it. Um, we don't. Well, I'm not gonna say we don't believe. It is often kind of not necessarily frowned upon, but it's
It's taboo.
very taboo to seek counseling. You hold it in, tough it out, you'll be okay. Um, but Michael Beasley brought this up, and it was it was very kind of enlightening. Um, I've said it several times when it comes to like things like and I'm gonna tie this together. I know this is gonna sound crazy if when I first say it, but um Michael Jordan wouldn't I don't think he would be the same in this era, because when it comes to the Michael Jordan LeBron, I said I don't think he would be the same in this era with having to deal with social media, the social media aspect of it. Um, I think he great player that, and I'm not saying that at all, but um, things like gambling, the death of his father, um, infidelity.
Punching his teammate in practice.
First of all, that would have been videotaped and spread everywhere just because of this era. But it's the whole mental health and stuff and how it goes. It's especially on in athletics, thoughts, because I know Daniel, you kind of pointed out and brought the video to us. What are your thoughts initially?
Yeah. Initially, just watching it, the video, and listening to the podcast, um, the biggest thing that he brought up was just, he was asking people for help.
Hmm.
He went to his teammates. He said, how did I do this? How can I do this? How can I improve? And he just, he kept saying, no one would help me. you know, and a lot of times what happened, people, they have their cameras and, they call people crazy, because they
Hmm.
don't understand them. A lot of these guys, they come from, you know, impoverished neighborhoods and they don't have, I would
The
say, when
means.
yeah, when you know better, you do better. Whenever you're surrounded by people who talk about mental health in a healthy way, who don't call you crazy because they don't understand you, um, you become a better adult. You understand how you understand how your feelings work. You understand your emotions, and you understand that it's okay to not be okay. You know,
Mhm.
and it's okay to talk to somebody and to see a therapist. Personally, I see a therapist every other week. You know, because I do believe in being a whole person. Being healthy, um, mentally, physically, and in every area. So whenever watching that video and watching him just basically said no one was there to help him. And if y'all can remember, Michael Beasley coming out of college, man,
Oh my God,
was
that
one
dude
of the
was,
Right.
best,
yeah.
athletically talented people ever. They used to call him the baby mellow, right?
Mhm.
And he had a lot of confidence in himself. But what he didn't have is someone that I don't think he had a mentor, you know,
Hmm.
and someone that he could talk to. And a lot of times we look at these athletes and we just think that, they have it all made. But no, they don't. They're people just like us. They put on their pants, one leg at a time. And just like, the pandemic did a number on a lot of us, it affected them too. And yeah,
I think, to me personally, what I took out of it was there was a part of that clip where he said all he his whole self worth pretty much was attached to basketball, because that's
Mm.
all people had ever, you know what I mean. That's the only time people ever really paid attention to him. Like if it was time for a party or a dinner, birthday dinner, something like that, nobody was calling Michael Beasley. But whenever it was time to go play ball, it was like, oh, yeah, go call Mike. And so at that point, it's almost like his self worth was attached to basketball. And
right,
I think about how athletes these days feel with, like what you mentioned, Pooh, with the social media and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
it's almost like they're not allowed to be anything other than athletes. You know what I mean? They're not allowed to be humans. They have to be robotic and be athletes at all time. And and whenever I watched that video, it almost took me back to how would you the summer of 2020, whenever, we all know what was
Mm.
going on, and we all know what was going on in the world. But like let's take LSU for example. Whenever you had players on this team, you know what I mean, who wanted to demonstrate how what their feelings and stuff were, with the situation going on in the world, and you had people on the coaching staff or fans or whatever it may be, who pretty much told them your feelings don't matter. You know what I mean?
Shut up
Like,
and dribble.
shut up and play football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not expected to have emotions, or you're not expected to have feelings toward what's going on in the world. You're supposed to strap on a chin strap and go play football. And I think that as fans, sometimes it's easy for us to take away the human side of these people and expect them, just to be, football players and bring us entertainment and stuff like that. And we often forget, what they're going through, and that they actually have lives, and they have things that mess with their mental health, and they have things that might put them in a situation where they don't want to play football at the moment, or they might feel like whatever is going on in their life is more important than football. And we've seen a lot of players, retire recently, or from sports, or
Mhm.
take breaks from sports. Like Calvin really took a break from from the Falcons because for a mental break. Like we've seen the tennis star Naomi Osaka, withdraw from tournaments for mental illness, rest, or fatigue, or whatever you want to call it. So I think we've seen a lot of athletes who are taking their mental health more serious. But I think, like Daniel was saying, we need to try to make this reach them at a younger level, to where when they are in college, that that they can find the avenues and the outlets that they need to get help, so they won't feel like Beasley and nobody is helping them, and so they also won't feel like that all their self worth is attached to whatever they can bring to a certain sport.
Yeah. Talking about this and the mental health and the importance of mental health, make me think about Delonte West. He the jokes about him and teammates' mom. Um, I'm not saying that led to it, but the joke. It's a joke, and then you start seeing him pictures of him on the streets, and it's put up for ridicule. And I think Mark Cuban reached out and started helping him, and he started getting better. But it's just, yeah. Go ahead, Ant.
But about to say, if you on that clip, Michael Beasley even mentioned that. You know what I mean? He said, "Do I have to?" And I don't. I'm not taking this as a shot to Delonte, and I don't believe that he took it as a shot to Delonte. But basically, he was saying, "Do I have to beat Delonte West to receive help? Like, do I have to be out in the streets? You know what I mean? Before people will actually see that I need help? Like, why does it take you falling all the way to rock bottom before people
Mhm.
realize you need help? Why can't, when I ask for help, it be seen as serious?"
Right. It's. I'm trying to think of. There was a an actress. She played Tiffany Warren. She played Tiffany on In the House. Same situation.
Hmm.
She was people. She was. I think the last movie I remember she was in. It was Donald Faison was in. I can't remember the name of the movie. It was a crazy movie. It was way back. It's way back in the it's gonna sound like my kids talk about way back in the 90s. But it was like, what I'm saying, late 90s, early 2000s. But she hadn't been in anything in a while. And then when she popped back up, it was someone again taking video, social media, posting a picture of her, and she was strung out on drugs and stuff. And then it was then when someone saw her and they were, people laughed, they got their laughs off, it went viral, and then someone saw and was like, "Hey, this is a human being."
Right.
And then
Exactly,
and
bro.
then people reached out, and she started getting clean and getting better. So it is something. You never know what anyone's going through. Um, there have been several football players who have taken their own lives, or taken the lives of family members. Um, and I know CTE is prevalent, but there are players who just need, if they had help, if someone would have cared about them, as we been mentioned, more than just a football player. you know yeah, Daniel, go ahead. I know you're about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I would say not only that, right now, mental health is in, right? It's popular to talk
Mhm.
about mental health and say, how much, you want to help people and, don't call out people and then don't embarrass people. But I mean, we all know that's not true. How many times you get on the internet, you get on social media, and you see, people calling out. I'm gonna bring up this. It has nothing to do with sports, right? But I love Snowfall. Right?
Hmm.
Snowfall is probably one of my favorite shows right now. And Franklin, the main character, his girlfriend is probably not the best looking to some people. I think she's very pretty, right? But um a lot of people are calling, and saying that, oh, she's not pretty and this and that or whatever. But if you can remember the gentleman who played Black Panther, um
T'Challa.
Yeah.
I said T'Challa.
Chadwick Boseman, right?
Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick
Yeah.
Yeah,
Boseman.
I
Yeah.
mean, they did the same thing to him, and it came out
Mm.
that he had cancer. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And everyone felt bad and like, oh, we're not going to do this again, and how could you guys do this? And look, well, hey, a couple months later, they're doing the same
Man,
thing.
Five. Hold up.
You know,
5 hours later.
I mean, look.
exactly,
Look.
exactly.
Will Smith. With all the stuff he was going through, crying on video and all that, and they
Yeah,
made fun of it. They made fun of him. Like, we want to bring it back to sports. Ben Simmons, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, he said it was for mental illness reasons, and people started bashing him, saying it wasn't mental. Like that. That's the type of stuff we're talking about. Whenever you
right.
say you have something, something bothering you, and people tell you, no, that's not what's wrong with you.
I had never heard of a sports therapist until I watched Last Chance U, the second
Hmm.
season, and
Brittany,
no, it was not Brittany. It was the kid, the quarterback that came from Florida State.
DeAndre,
Um,
DeAndre,
it wasn't Francois, but it was the kid
yeah,
before Francois.
DeAndre, yeah, Johnson, I think, or
Yeah,
Johnson was his last name. Yeah,
something
but
like that. Yeah, he had a sports therapist, and to talk about the first of all the thing that that wronged him, that
mhm.
why he ended up leaving Florida State, the act he did, and then also the just I guess his mental aspect. I had never heard of that, and I when I first saw it, in all honesty, I was like, sports therapist, oh man, these kids are soft. But and I can admit I did the thing that we all, well, not we all, but that people do. He's soft, why is sports therapist? But now as I've gotten older, I realize that having that outlet to, and how the mental aspect of a game, because we think about the athletic skill that it takes to do these things. We don't think about the mental aspect, except when it comes to golf.
Right.
And if you look to me, if you look at golf, the golf Tiger Woods didn't start having issues in golf until he started having problems in his home. The mental side, and it's like mentally. So
Right.
that's of course he had some body ailments and stuff, but my opinion, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
But I mean, I'm just like, just to take it back, back to the beginning where we all started from. Like you say, we don't know what these people are going through, man. These kids lost parents, lose grandparents. You know what I mean? They all kind of stuff going on in their personal lives, and all we care about is whether or not they make a tackle or whether or not they make a catch. You know what I
mm,
mean? And it sounds so funny when you say it like that, but
yeah,
and when you look at the big picture, that's the case for most people. They don't really care what you're going through as long as that you can provide, on the field what they want you to provide on the field. And honestly, as a human being, we got to stop doing that. We got to start treating these people like human beings, like they really are.
Like people.
treat him more
Exactly.
than the athlete.
Right.
So,
And
Exactly. Exactly.
and I will say this because I mean, think about Max Johnson. You know what I'm
mm,
saying?
mhm,
The mental mind games they had to play with him whenever they took him out of that Arkansas game, right? And then you
mm,
put in Nuss. It's like,
Well,
come on, you know?
well, not even just that, bro. But how many times do you open Twitter and you see your name and Mac Johnson sucks?
Yeah,
Get rid of him. All this kind of stuff, bro. Like that kind of stuff. Like they're kids, man. Like
so
nobody in any other walk of life. Like whenever you were fresh out of college and you started, your IT business or whatever, you don't see Twitter and well, Anthony sucks at his job. You know what I mean? Like only in sports do you see that kind of
right.
stuff, bro. And it's sad.
Yeah.
yeah, So, hey, everybody, sports fans, do better.
Great.
All right. So,
Can we? Can we end the show on some kind of like happy note,
Oh,
man? Because it's kind of
you
sad
know
right
we
now.
are. You know how we do.
Yeah.
So, Georgia Church of the Old. All right, we got a new segment. Altar call, calling people out. And go first.
All right, so I need the NCAA to come to the altar. Um,
Well,
first and foremost, this is your big game right here. This is what you wait all year for, March Madness, and it has been filled with terrible referee performances in both men's and women's. And then on top of that, after LSU women knocked off Jackson State, the official NCAA women's basketball page posted a picture of Kim Mulkey and Coach Reed from Jackson State and tagged them and their respective programs, except they tagged Howard women basketball instead of Jackson State's women basketball. So NCAA, please do better.
Yeah. I mean, Baker Mayfield, please come to the altar. Guys, Baker Mayfield wrote a letter to Cleveland, a goodbye letter, and it wasn't even time to say goodbye. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that.
well, um, we've talked bad about Coach O. Daniel, I'm stealing yours now. Uh,
Go ahead, brother.
we talked bad about Coach O. But Coach O did some great things for LSU. But we had some punk kids that decided to stand behind him, make a TikTok or whatever kind of video, and try to ridicule him. But you won't do it to his face. I guarantee you won't do it to his face. He'll show you what Sissy Blue really mean. That's all I'm gonna say about that. All right. Well, gentlemen, again, I appreciate y'all coming out, doing this, bringing this, putting this out here for everybody. I want to say Chris tried to get back on. He's there. Um, AT&T went out in this area, so he is completely down. So yeah, he's
Y'all
completely
know Chris
down.
stay by the bayou.
Yeah, so but we'll be back next week bringing some hotness, maybe sooner. You never know.
That's
Be
right.
on the lookout for new stuff.
Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
And with that, we out. Appreciate y'all.
Hey, like and subscribe.